It's Kevin McCullough on AM 970, The Answer.
You're listening to Kevin McCullough Radio, where we talk about breaking news as it happens, what it means, why it matters.
Kevin McCullough, and here we go.
Obliterating confusion.
Amplifying truth.
And pursuing clarity.
Kevin McCullough, now.
Coming up, Christopher Scalia will, for the first time on the record, answer a question about the conspiracy related to his father's death. David Fisher will be here to talk about a very undiscovered major headline. Kelsey Harkness will discuss Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and all the scouts in between. And we start with breaking news from the White House. Sarah Westwood joins me next.
Kevin McCullough.
Something interesting is happening with this.
Kevin McCullough, let me start with you.
I found this thing at townhall.com by Kevin McCullough. The big dog has come out of nowhere.
Kevin McCullough.
I just want to help people think.
Nationally syndicated radio host and author of No He Can't.
And he's playing the role as well as anybody could.
Kevin McCullough is a nationally syndicated radio host and author of No He Can't.
The odds are he's right.
It's Kevin McCullough Radio.
In a few moments, I will sign an executive order taking the first steps to providing millions of Americans with Obamacare relief.
This is a big deal for a lot of reasons today, friends. Kevin McCullough welcoming you in. It's another edition of Kevin McCullough Radio. It's a big deal because, as the president himself explained, you've got nearly a third of the country that, are, if nothing is done, are left with very, very bad options as of their current status. Cut 3.
Today, 1/3 of all the counties in America have only a single insurer selling coverage on an exchange, and next year it looks like nearly half of all counties in our country. Think of that. All of the counties, one half, will have only one insurer, and many will have none. Many will have absolutely created roadblocks for people to have any form of the insurance we're talking about.
So what does this all mean, and just how big of news is this that the president is using executive action to get there? Sarah Westwood is the White House correspondent for the D.C. Examiner and a friend to the Kevin McCullough microphone. It's always a pleasure to have her back when she's not, moonlighting over there for Mr. Cavuto. Sarah, welcome back to Kevin McCullough. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Kind of busy today. You guys had a lot of stuff going on at the White House.
Absolutely. Today was a huge day. Like you mentioned, the health care executive order was a major step in President Trump's goal of repealing Obamacare, and one a lot of people were wondering today why he didn't take earlier.
Well, what's your feeling on, first of all, how this has been received since it was put out? And I guess as best you can kind of come up with an answer, being that you're in the White House, what are they saying about why he didn't go down this path earlier?
Well, conservatives are clearly happy about what this executive order does, trying to find ways for the federal government to ease the regulations on providers, insurance providers, so that they can offer plans that don't cover all of these health benefits and maybe get them to some of the younger, healthier folks at a cheaper rate. So you can look no further than the evidence that Senator Rand Paul, one of the staunchest conservatives in Congress, was standing right behind President Trump to know that this is something that even the president's critics were happy about. John Kelly, the White House chief of staff, was asked about this during the daily briefing. If you saw, he was the one who actually took the podium today and fielded questions from reporters, and he was asked if this is such a dramatic step toward repealing Obamacare and it's within the legal rights of the administration to do this, why didn't President Trump sign this in his third week on the job rather than his 10th month? And what Kelly said was that these are the types of changes that Trump had hoped to see in legislation.
Right.
When this was working its way through the Congress, he had hoped that Republican lawmakers could make this happen. But now that it's clear that at least until next spring we're not going to see a bill repeal Obamacare, it's clear that President Trump had to sort of take matters into his own hands, but doing it through executive order was not Trump's first choice.
Well, and that's that is doable. It's understandable, and I think most people say it's reasonable. I mean, you've had both sides of the aisle, Sarah, say most of this year that Obamacare is a disaster, and the impact it's going to have on people is just outrageous in terms of like lawmakers being able to see it coming down the track and literally not be able to get something done about it was untenable, I think, to the not just the people that supported Trump, but the people that are working for a living and trying to pay for insurance that's gotten more and more expensive.
Right. President Trump cited some of those stats, the growing number of counties that have fewer and fewer choices of insurance providers in this country. And keep in mind that you're right, the Democrats are sort of admitting that there are flaws in the Affordable Care Act because they're proposing their own alternatives. It was Senator Bernie Sanders and a number of other progressive members who jumped on board just a few weeks ago with this Medicare for All solution that they were hoping would bring on the advent of universal health care in this country, a single-payer system. And that was taken by a lot of observers as an admission that the current system is not working. And some of the Democratic leaders, like House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, were reportedly among those who were behind the scenes asking those progressives to pump the brakes because they saw what the implications were by coming out against Obamacare in that fashion.
Yeah, no, it's really true. Well, so some of the things that this does, one of the things that this does is allow people to now go over state lines to get cheaper, smaller packages that kind of violate what formerly was mandated by the ACA. Is that correct?
Yes, it allows the labor departments and the other federal agencies to look at ways that can ease those restrictions by allowing employers maybe in the same industry to band together and offer plans that don't necessarily have all the frills that Obamacare plans do and across state lines in ways that could increase competition and lower premiums.
Yeah. Well, the people call it frills. There were things in there that I never understood. The need for a man who may undergo a sex change to have someday a mammogram covered in the process of Obamacare it's head scratching, and that was what created the cost inflation. Even after we were promised we could keep your doctor and everything's going to be cheaper, it was because of all of these really ridiculous things that they insisted coverage be granted for that just fewer and fewer insurance companies had any desire to get into this market. And they were all dying to get in at the beginning. But by the time we've rolled into now, what he said, one insurer in some states for the entire state.
Right, and part of the problem was one that a conservative analyst predicted before the Affordable Care Act was passed, which was that not enough younger, healthier people would sign up for the exchanges, and that would therefore leave the insurance companies potentially holding the bag in terms of costs for sicker, older people, and that's sort of exactly what we saw happen. And the fear with this new executive order among Democrats is that what will happen is even more sicker, healthier people, they'll obviously go for the cheaper plans, come off the exchanges into these group plans that the executive order could create, and that will just sort of accelerate the demise of Obamacare even faster than it's already happening. So Democrats are calling this Trump executive order a wrecking ball that he's taking to Obamacare because it will hasten its demise.
Yeah. Well, typically conservatives don't like executive order actions being used to carry out, what should be primarily legislative achievements to begin with. So if the quicker we can still get this fixed, I think the more satisfied at least the president's supporters will be. But for the time being, I guess through the end of the year, this is going to be good news for people, and they should be able to save money through the mechanisms that you already laid out. Real quickly, let me ask you about the other top stories of today. Mr. Kelly appeared in the press briefing and basically said he's not going anywhere, kind of regardless. He's on board. Why are cabinet members constantly under this media speculation that they're being pushed out or being gotten rid of? Why is this such a phenomenon in this White House?
That's a great question. I think it has a lot to do with, at the beginning, President Trump's management style in the corporate world not necessarily translating well into the White House. President Trump is someone who likes to have sort of competing power factions below him. He likes to have dissenting viewpoints all around him so he can make the best decision. But what that created was rival power centers within the White House, and they used the press to settle scores. They would selectively leak about their opponents, about this topic or that topic, to try to make themselves look better. And at the beginning, this was a particular problem. It's definitely receded a little bit as John Kelly has come in and cracked down on a lot of that behavior. But it's a learning curve, and I think the White House staff and the cabinet has clearly improved a lot from the beginning, when every single day we were seeing a leaked transcript from a phone call or a rumor about this or that. It's much better now.
Yeah. Well, and you would know because you are the star at the D.C. Examiner for the Washington Examiner, the White House reporter, telling us what's happening. And regularly you do see her with Neil Cavuto on Fox News. A little bit of a tease there because, you know, Neil and I sometimes are on at the same time. So that's, you know, sometimes in competition. But we got you today, Sarah, and I'm happy about that. Come on back anytime. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Kevin McCullough, we've got a lot to get to. You know that Boy Scouts turned Girl Scouts turned whatever you call them now, Scouts? Kelsey Harkness is with us from The Federalist next to discuss. David Fisher on the economy, particularly in light of the Trump exec order. And Christopher Scalia with some breaking news before we're done.
Stuck in traffic? We've got the answer.
It's a slow ride in New Jersey on 24 eastbound from JFK Parkway in Millburn right across the 78 in Springfield. That's all stemming from an earlier accident. Westbound, we're slow in the 287. On the Parkway southbound, we're slow 145 to 135. Northbound, we're slow Union tolls up towards exit 148. Turnpike Western Spur jam southbound 18W to 15E. Southbound Eastern Spur slows from 15X to 15W. And northbound Eastern Spur slow from 14 up towards 15E. Looks like the Goethals Bridge is a slow ride in both directions. Outer Bridge Crossing, a much better ride for you. As we take a look at your ride across the Hudson, 45 minutes going back to New Jersey at the Holland Tunnel, about 15 minutes on the city-bound side from the 1 and 9 approach, a little better than that from the Turnpike approach, 20 to 30 minutes outbound of the Lincoln, 20 on the city-bound side, and the George Washington Bridge, pretty good ride. Northbound West Side Highway, we're slow from the 90s on up. FDR northbound, we're slow from the 30s to the RFK Triborough Bridge. Southbound, we're slow RFK Triborough into the 80s. And now you know how not to go. I am Mike Barker on AM 970, The Answer.
Hi, Kevin McCullough. You got questions about estate law. You got questions about inheritance. You got questions about, liabilities once you pass on or a relative passes on. There's only one people in place that I point everyone that asks me those questions, and that's Connors and Sullivan. And so honored to have Mike Connors back with us today. He's also the voice of Ask the Lawyer, the radio broadcast you hear on our weekends. But Mike, digging into the mailbag this week, Billy writes this question. 6 brothers and sisters own a property inherited from their parents. Can only one of the siblings prevent the property from being sold? What say you, Mike Connors?
Well, unfortunately, yes. Because if you have 6 owners to sell the property, you need all 6 signatures on the deed. And if somebody doesn't cooperate or agree, you have to go to court in what's called a partition proceeding and force the property from being sold. But that takes time, it's expensive, and, of course, it's going to break the family apart. Now, if you're planning in advance, the one thing you might want to do is put the property into a trust and then have 1 or 2 children out of the 6 in charge, and they decide what to do. And when they sell the property, they divide it 6 ways. But that'd be the more efficient way to do it, but people don't always plan in advance.
And it might keep peace a little bit better down the road, too.
No question. That's our job, to keep peace within the family if we can.
Yeah, and nobody does it better, friends. That's why Connors and Sullivan is regularly regarded as the very best law firm in New York City at what they do. Estate law, elder care, everything related to end-of-life law. You want to know, you got a question about any of it, you need to be talking to Mike Connors at Connors and Sullivan and be listening to his broadcast. Weekends, early in the morning, 8 a.m. on AM 570 The Mission, and Saturday evenings at 6 on AM 970 The Answer here in New York City. And if you want to be in touch and ask your own question of Mike Connors, 347-735-MIKE. That's 347-735-6453. Mike Connors, thanks so much.
Thank you, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin McCullough. What if I could promise you that you would get better sleep than you've ever gotten in your entire life, or your money back? That's right, better sleep than you've ever experienced, or you don't have to pay for what gives you that sleep. That's the MyPillow. And that's the promise that Mike Lindell has made to every one of my listeners. And he's going to offer it to you at 50% off. He's not offering it to everyone at 50% off, but he's offering it to you at 50% off. In fact, everything on the MyPillow website is now 50% off if you use our promo code. I'm Kevin McCullough, and I want you to know that Mike Lindell is committed to the best sleep of your life. He's willing to guarantee it. And if you're not convinced in the first 60 days, full refund, no questions asked. But then he's going to warranty those products, especially the pillows, for the next 10 years. They're made in America. They're machine washable and dryable, and he wants you to get started getting better sleep now. 800-506-2641. That's 800-506-2641. 800-506-2641. Call right now at 1-800-506-2641.
Breaking news as it happens. You're listening to Kevin McCullough Radio.
Well, it's one of those days where I consistently say this all the time. You can't do a lot that shocks me. In fact, almost nothing anymore. And yesterday when Alex sent me this headline, it didn't shock me at all, but it continues to, I don't know, give greater definition to where we are and kind of the moral abyss of what modern America life is like. And so I thought, well, let's discuss it today. We have more time. And Kelsey Harkness from thefederalist.com has also addressed it in her column today on thefederalist.com. And so we're glad to welcome Kelsey back to the broadcast. Kelsey, welcome. Good to have you.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
So the Boy Scouts of America made an announcement. They announced that it was a unanimous vote on their board that they are now going to just admit girls to the Scout program. Why do the Girl Scouts exist?
Well, it's interesting. The Girl Scouts have a long history of empowering young girls and women to be future leaders, entrepreneurs, innovators. I myself was a proud Brownie in my day. And traditionally, girls would do Girl Scouts, boys would do Boy Scouts. And these two organizations shared a friendly civil partnership. And it seems that there's been a declining membership in both the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. So what do the boys do? Well, they try to create more competition for the girls by opening their organization up to the girls and potentially dissolving the Girl Scouts out of existence.
So there's so many ridiculous things that I could ask, but I guess the main thing that I'm curious about here is the Boy Scouts have undergone a lack of membership for notable reasons. You know, a few years ago, you had massive participation from religious groups, Mormons in Western states in particular, Southern Baptists. You had lots of kids that were Catholic and otherwise that said, we like the values of the Boy Scouts of America's program. We're going to send our kids there. As soon as the Boy Scouts board started getting all tinkering under the hood with the engine and saying, we're going to let the transgender issue come in and have impact. We're going to let the issue of gay scout leaders go on overnight camping trips with the scouts. These types of things began to just push out what were those natural affinity relationships. And so I think the explanation of declining membership is really common sense. But now they're saying to solve that problem, we have to become something we've never been. Is that what you're saying?
You're completely correct. The Boy Scouts once had a mission of developing lifelong character and leadership skills, and now it seems like their mission is more of one of creating lifelong political correctness skills, and that's something that the American public clearly is not interested in, and they're not buying into. So I actually don't think this move in the short term is going to help their brand. I think they will continue to suffer, but I think, in my piece, what I argued in the Federalist is that there's a really unfortunate consequence of this for the Girl Scouts.
Right.
And in order to please a few girls, young girls, who I believe really do want to be able to participate in the activities that the Boy Scouts do, but in order to appease those few girls, we are now risking the entire institution of the Girl Scouts.
But, Kelsey, isn't that the way modern feminism, and I distinguish modern feminism from classic feminism? I consider 1920s the classical feminist era, in the 1960s forward, the modern feminist era. But doesn't modern feminism almost always hurt women? And let me just give one example. This idea of gender fluidity in the state of California continues to have boys show up and say on a given day, I feel like I want to be a girl, so I'm going to go out for the girls' softball team instead of the guys' baseball, or maybe they got cut by the baseball team. They want to play girls' softball, and they have actually taken roster spots away from girls who were trying to pursue athletic excellence in that arena. Doesn't this modern push towards indistinguishable genders always end up hurting the women?
I completely agree with you, and I also agree with you with distinguishing classic feminism from modern feminism. Modern feminism says, if you don't agree with us, you're not one of us, although, there's plenty of conservative women who identify with these ideas of empowering women to work their ways towards leadership positions. But in the case of the Boy Scouts in specific, how ironic that it was actually a women's organization that really drove this change to allow girls to join the Boy Scouts. So this change really came in the name of equality and feminism, and then once again we see it potentially hurting women and girls in the long run.
Well, and I think that's the danger that we always come up against when we're saying that there is zero distinction between men and women, which was what made the 60s version of feminism different. The 1920s, people said men and women are equal to each other, and therefore they should be given equal opportunity to own business, to vote, to own property, to do all those things in the culture. In the 1960s, it became very much about sexual liberation. It became very much about abortion. It became about sexual behavior that didn't have consequence for either gender. There were a lot of other things that original feminism never kind of countenanced that now all of a sudden, if you see the 30-year impact that it's had, it has said to men and women, your distinctions are relatively insignificant to us, and it's only to the degree that you are substitutional for one another that you matter. And I argue that it's the distinctions that make us the best of who we are.
Well, on top of that, modern feminism now says being a woman depends on how you look and how you feel. When we look at the issue of transgenders, how does a person who is born a man actually know what it feels like to be a woman, because you don't have our body parts? They make it, if you look at Caitlyn Jenner, she portrays this image as if being a woman is all about having nice clothes and your nails done and your hair done. But the reality is, and I think a lot of classic feminists would agree, that being a woman is so much more complicated and deep than that. And it's almost an insult to equate who we are as women to these very superficial aspects.
Yeah. But it's not being helped by the government, like in California, where they've passed a law where if you use an anatomical pronoun to describe someone anatomically correctly, a man to a man, call him a he, but he wants to be a she, that's now against the law. It's a strange existence, Kelsey, that we're in, but it doesn't get much weirder than the Boy Scouts becoming girls. And thanks for highlighting it today in the Federalist. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Kevin.
Kelsey Harkness is her name, and you can read her in today's Federalist.com, and I encourage you to do so. Kevin McCullough coming right back.
News, opinion, passion. This is AM 970, The Answer.
Generally clear skies and 62 degrees on this Thursday evening. What's going on? We have the answer. There could be more delays and cancellations on some New Jersey transit lines over retaining wall issues in the not-too-distant future. The railroad plans to inspect concrete retaining walls in Newark and near the Montclair Bay Street station. This could lead to service disruptions on the Morrison-Essex, Montclair-Booton lines. Twice, concrete fell from the retaining wall at the Summit train station, forcing the railroad to suspend service on its Gladstone line. NYPD detectives are investigating a violent home invasion in Brooklyn that left a 91-year-old man dead. James Flippin has more.
For neighbors who knew Alderman Thompson and knew he and his wife together, the news is heartbreaking.
Love these people, man.
This is bad, man. It's not clear yet exactly how Thompson died, but we know 4 masked men stormed his apartment in Bed-Stuy Wednesday afternoon along Decatur Avenue in broad daylight. NYPD Deputy Chief Michael Kemper.
They were both tied up, and she was able to untie herself and then call 911.
She being the man's 100-year-old wife. The 91-year-old victim was discovered unconscious and then rushed to the hospital where he was pronounced dead.
In sports, it's Game 5 of the National League Divisional Series tonight in Washington between the Nationals and the Cubs. The winner moves on to face the Dodgers in the National League Championship Series. And Game 1, of course, of the American League Championship Series tomorrow night in Houston between the Yankees and the Astros. Taking a look at the traffic, outbound side of the Holland Tunnel, a 45-minute wait. Citybound, really not all that bad. 20 to 30 minutes each way at the Lincoln Tunnel, George Washington Bridge in pretty good shape. Northbound West Side Highway, slow from the 90s on up. FDR northbound heaviest from the 30s up towards the RFK Triborough Bridge. The Cross Bronx westbound slow from the Bronx River Parkway on over. Partly cloudy skies tonight, overnight low 55. Sunshine tomorrow, high 64. Clouds on Saturday, high 74. And sunny on Sunday, high of 80. And now you know what's going on. I am Mike Barker on AM 970, The Answer.
Hi, Kevin McCullough. What are you doing for your Christmas or holiday party this year, for your corporate outing? Or maybe an engagement or family or wedding or other event where you could do something really classy, a birthday, anniversary, a bar bat mitzvah. Why not consider having it on a luxury private yacht? Your guests will just be blown away. Delicious cuisine, breathtaking skyline views, and my friend Francesca will find you the yacht that's best for your event, like the Atlantis. That's the yacht we take out each year for the big client cruise event. Captain Fred, got to meet him personally. He's a big fan of the show. And his staff take such good care of us. You know, when it comes to how immaculate this operation runs, Captain Fred, Francesca, these people care about you day and night. They leave no stone unturned. Francesca's got beautiful vessels in her fleet, and guests can board at convenient locations throughout the metro area. Fran's yachts are fully insured. They're Coast Guard certified. Visit franstouchofclass.com and see the range of yachts in her fleet right now, and then call her and tell her, hey, Kevin was raving about you on the air, and I just had to call and get the options for myself. She's going to fill you in on the whole thing. She's going to tell you about the delicious cuisine. And when I say delicious, I mean it's raining in my mouth thinking about it right now. Talk to her today. Start the planning. 212-385-9400. That's 212-385-9400. Or go to franstouchofclass.com. That's 212-385-9400.
Nakba, Arabic for disaster. Incredibly, David Myers, new Center for Jewish History president, calls the founding of the State of Israel Nakba, a total disaster. But David Myers wants his fellow Jews to be quiet. We won't. Myers supports targeted boycott of Israeli businesses. He's on the new Israel Fund Board, financing groups advocating boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israel. Myers, J Street Advisory Council member. They malign Israel, calling Jews oppressors and occupiers. Myers says Israel's old city of Jerusalem sovereignty is illegal. Tired of people like David Myers trashing Israel? Join us. Protest Myers' hiring as president of the Center for Jewish History, Wednesday, October 18th from 5 to 8 p.m. at 15 West 16th Street in Manhattan. Join Americans for a Safe Israel and jccwatch.org. Tell David Myers that he and those who support him are the true Nakba.
What you need to know when you need it. It's Kevin McCullough Radio.
Well, a big kind of financial news day in America, because there's something that my analyst has been saying on this broadcast for the last couple of weeks, and now it's starting to turn into actual reality. But also breaking news today that President Trump has signed the executive order. He's going to open up borders, allow people to buy smaller health care plans if that's what their family needs. It's going to be very interesting. I want to ask my financial expert about this. CEO of Landmark Capital is David Fisher, and he rejoins us. David, we normally talk to you on a Monday, but welcome to the Thursday edition. Glad you're with us.
Well, I'm glad I'm here. This is really big news and a great step forward for our country, I believe.
Well, let's talk about it just real briefly. What the president has put in place by executive order is to take down basically the fences that are around the states, so that if I can find a competitive policy, if I live in New York but Connecticut has a better policy, I can buy it from them. Is that how it works?
Exactly. We've created competition in the insurance industry is really what it comes down to. Anytime you have competition, then rates have to come down. And that's a real true business principle that President Trump is implementing today. So with that, people can go across borders and get their insurance from another state, and they're not bound to their only one plan that is offered currently under the Obama administration Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, well, there's some states that were down to literally only one option. Tennessee, I think a number of western states all had lost so many different plans. This is good news, and I think that that's going to have a percussive effect to the economy as well. I think that I think the markets will like this and feel good about it. It doesn't solve all the problems, not even come close to solving all the problems, but at least it's a good step in the right direction. Other big headline news story, David, you told us 2 weeks ago that something really big was going to start happening. You texted me yesterday and said, here it comes. What happened?
Well, it's now finally broke mainstream media, but this is a big announcement. China who's the largest consumer of oil, wants to create their currency of the world reserve and compete with the dollar. And how you do that is you buy oil and you pay not only in your currency, but you pay in gold. And that's what China is doing. It's called the oil for gold trade. And this is big news. It's something I've been following for about 5 years, not really talked about it publicly until 2.5 weeks ago, because it's really starting to come out.
Now, they've been working on this for a while. How did they go about setting it up?
Well, it's huge. I mean, how do you become involved in the world currency? You have to be involved in gold, and you have to be involved in oil, the two largest commodities in the world, and that's what China is doing. They started buying gold in 2005, and now they're the second largest buyer. They're the largest buyer in the world, the second largest holder in the world behind the United States. How do you get involved in the oil trade? You become the largest buyer of oil, and now they struck agreements with Russia and 17 other countries in 2014 to make payment in their currency called the Yuan. And last July, they started making currency payments in gold by making payments in oil with gold. So how do they do this is real simple. London is the hub of gold, and they set up a bank in 2013 in London, one of the largest banks. They struck deals with Russia on bypassing the dollar. They also bought a huge vault in London so they can store the gold. They became a part of the 8 major banks that determine the price of gold every day. Now China is a part of that. And the London Bullion Market Association is the hubbub where gold is traded. And for the first time in decades, upon decades, July of this year, Kevin, they now disclosed how much gold is in their vaults, and China became a accredited member of the London Bullion Market Association. So they've set it all up. It's all ready to go, and now people can get their payment in oil, and now they're negotiating with Saudi Arabia for that to happen.
It's going to be crazy, and this will establish them then as the most stable currency on the planet. It'll surpass the dollar. What's going to happen to the dollar?
Well, think about this. In the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944, the United States controlled 2/3 of the world's gold, and they insisted that the dollar would be backed by gold. So that's how we got the world to use the dollar. But we took the backing off gold off the dollar in 1971. That's where we created the petrodollar. So this is getting ready to set up now, and articles are coming out now, CNBC. People like Carl Weinberg, who's the chief economist, are saying this is going to be very detrimental. He says, I believe that the pricing of the yuan of oil is coming soon, and the Saudis must move to accept it, and this will happen in the next 1 to 2 years.
That's just crazy. They're going to have a currency backed by gold and oil. The dollar was the petrodollar after it was the gold dollar. Friends, you want to read more about this? David's been writing about it. In fact, it's in the new newsletter, Black Gold for Yellow Gold, the trade that changes the world. You can get a free copy at 844-604-2575 or request it online at landmarkgold.com. David, thanks for being here. Again, the number 844-604-2575. Hi, Kevin McCullough talking with Gary Goldberg about what else? Your money, because we care about you and your money. And Gary Goldberg, of course, is founder of Gary Goldberg Financial Services, 800-377-5757 to get all the help that you need. Gary, a question when you first meet with a financial advisor, a lot of people, they're intimidated by stocks and all the things to be looking out for. What should you be evaluating in the person that you're going to have advise you in that area?
That's a great question, Kevin. First of all, that their ideas make sense to you, and then that their advice fills a need that you might have, and of course, that you're getting good value for your money. And by the way, cheapest is not necessarily the best. Last of all, Kevin, they really should be looking to have a weight lifted off their shoulders, and particularly in this current state of uncertainty. Buy the product that's being offered to you only if you feel that they will make your life better.
Right. And sometimes it's important to try to weed out whether or not someone is paid to push a product to you or not. And asking more questions is always going to be more helpful.
You can sense when somebody's pushing something versus advising you. And, of course, how long they've been around will be a good test as well. So I hope this helps.
Good stuff. Well, Gary Goldberg's financial team at Gary Goldberg Financial Services is ready and willing to help you today. 800-377-5757. Any questions you've got for Gary and the team, they're standing by. 800-377-5757, or look them up online at ggfs.com. That's 800-377-5757. Hi, Kevin McCullough. Have you ever had a legal question pertaining to elder law or estate law and wondered to yourself, what's the best course of action to take? Every Thursday during Kevin McCullough Radio at 5 o'clock on AM 970 The Answer, you'll hear Mike Connors of Connors & Sullivan Attorneys at Law answer a listener's actual question. If you have a legal question for Mike Connors, the Ask the Lawyer host, simply email the question to askmikeconnors@gmail.com. Or call the Legal Question of the Week phone line at 347-735-MIKE. That's 347-735-6453. And don't forget to tune in to Ask the Lawyer with Mike Connors every Saturday evening at 6 on AM 970 The Answer.
New York's homeless crisis is out of control. City Hall doesn't support our men and women in uniform, and the days when you can get to work on time are a distant memory. We need to turn things around and quickly. I'm City Councilman Joe Borelli, and I'm running for re-election. I fight for the outer boroughs. I fight for Staten Island. As the listeners of this station know, City Hall is out of touch with what we stand for. If you don't want to see every aspect of city government dominated by liberal Democrats, make sure you vote for me on the Republican, Conservative, Independents, or Reform Party lines. Together, let's take on de Blasio and the Democrats.
It's the final countdown.
To learn more, visit josephborelli.com or find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
The final countdown.
Paid for by Borelli 2017.
Hi, Kevin McCullough. What if I could promise you that you would get better sleep than you've ever gotten in your entire life, or your money back? That's right, better sleep than you've ever experienced, or you don't have to pay for what gives you that sleep. That's the MyPillow, and that's the promise that Mike Lindell has made to every one of my listeners, and he's going to offer it to you at 50% off. He's not offering it to everyone at 50% off, but he's offering it to you at 50% off. In fact, everything on the MyPillow website is now 50% off if you use our promo code. I'm Kevin McCullough, and I want you to know that Mike Lindell is committed to the best sleep of your life. He's willing to guarantee it, and if you're not convinced in the first 60 days, full refund, no questions asked. But then he's going to warranty those products, especially the pillows, for the next 10 years. They're made in America, they're machine washable and dryable, and he wants you to get started getting better sleep now. 800-506-2641. That's 800-506-2641. 800-506-2641. Call right now at 1-800-506-2641.
Happening in New York or across the globe. Learn why it matters first on Kevin McCullough Radio.
So glad you're with us, and it is not every single day that we get to discuss the great legacy of one of our greatest minds, and I really think contributors to American freedom in the modern era. But my next guest got to see it happen up close and personal because he was the son of the great Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. And there's a brand new book out that we want to tell you about that I think I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I look forward to doing so because it is a testament to the life and the enduring legacy of the former Supreme Court Justice. Scalia Speaks is the name of the book, and it's published by Crown Forum. And Christopher Scalia joins us now. Chris, thanks for coming on the broadcast. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks a lot for having me, Kevin. It's great to be talking to you.
What is unique about this book in terms of how it was put together?
Well, this book is a compilation of my father's speeches, a collection of speeches that my co-editor, Ed Whalen, and I gathered shortly after my father died, I guess a few months after he died, and started, we basically read through about 200 of his speeches and selected the ones that we thought would be most interesting to a general audience. So these speeches, obviously, the core of the book are speeches about law, but those are not intended, even those speeches are not intended just for law students or legal scholars or Supreme Court nerds. They're accessible to pretty much anybody.
Right.
And apart from those speeches, there are speeches about a variety of subjects. My father spoke to all sorts of different groups. He spoke at high school and college commencements, so we have a couple of those speeches. He spoke to kind of community organizations like an Italian-American group and an Irish-American group. He spoke to a turkey hunting federation. We've included those speeches. And then he delivered memorials and eulogies, and also a roast to Justice Ginsburg. So there are all sorts of speeches that they definitely give you great insight into my father's legal thinking, but also they kind of flesh him out more fully personally. So you come away with not only a better understanding of his thinking, but also of his life.
I think one of the things that casual observers of the Supreme Court will notice is that Justice Scalia was probably one of the better wits of the judges that were there. He liked to have fun, and he liked to crack jokes, and there was a liveliness to him in that regard, and it kind of spurred a friendship between he and Justice Ginsburg. Can you touch on that for a second?
Well, right. First, they had a friendship even before they were on the Supreme Court together. They were on a circuit court together in the early 80s. They developed a friendship despite their very different legal and political opinions because they shared a lot of things in common. They were both, for example, big fans of opera. They both liked to eat good food, and both had spouses who liked to cook really good food. So it wasn't just the two of them that were friends. They were, as couples, they were very good friends, and they used to socialize together and celebrate New Year's together and things like that. And they also helped each other in the court, too, as surprising as it may seem to people. They helped each other out on their opinions. Justice Ginsburg wrote the foreword to this collection, and she describes that process. They would, justices send drafts of opinions, and when they were looking over each other's drafts, they would suggest things like, this argument could be even better if you did X, Y, or Z. Even though they were most of the time on different sides of these opinions, that was just the nature of their friendship and their working relationship.
Yeah, and it also speaks to kind of the unique understanding of what the life of a Supreme Court justice is. Fairly lonely in terms of professional colleagues, aren't they?
I think that used to be the case, but I think that they have become closer over the last couple of decades. I got the sense, especially after my father died, that they were very close, and it was like a family. And I can't tell you enough how comforting the other justices were, and how much their support meant to my family, and especially my mother after my father passed away. It is now anyway. Over the past couple decades, really become more of a family atmosphere than I think it used to be.
Very interesting. We're speaking with Christopher Scalia. He is one of the co-editors and I would say authors, but everything in this book is from the mind and pen and mouth of your father. But you and Ed Whalen put it together. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg authored the foreword, and it is called Scalia Speaks: Reflections on Law, Faith, and Life Well Lived. Chris, I don't mean to be in any way inappropriate, but I'm curious because I've never heard anyone from the family address this, and I'm just interested in, are you satisfied with the investigation and the outcome of what was looked into at the time of your father's death?
Yeah, absolutely. We have no suspicions. We don't suspect. We don't believe any of the theories that have been floated around, and from what I've seen of them, a lot of them are based on just misunderstandings and misinformation. The most common thing mentioned was that there was a pillow over his head, and that was, I think one of the witnesses put it that way, or one of the people who saw him in the bedroom, but that was a poor choice of words because he would sleep with a pillow behind his head. And it's not like, it sounded much fishier than it was, but that's, just how sometimes my father slept. And then other rumors were that he was cremated to hide the evidence, which is just total nonsense because he was buried. I saw his body in casket. And so, it's frustrating to hear those things and because they're not true. And they also just kind of cater to the worst instincts in our politics right now, which is to believe the absolute worst of the other side. So yeah, we're satisfied. And we don't really pay attention to or we notice them, but we don't. You
don't entertain it. I have great respect for you, Chris, and being able to say that. Real quickly, just 10 seconds. Your dad would have been a big fan of Supreme Court Gorsuch, Justice Gorsuch.
Well, he thought he was. They knew each other a little bit. My father thought he was a good man, and clearly Justice Gorsuch was influenced by my father a little bit.
Excellent.
So,
All right, friends, the book is called Scalia Speaks, and I want you to get a copy of it. And Chris, we'd like to have you back in the future as well. But Reflections on Law, Faith, and Life Well Lived, Scalia Speaks, and look for it now. It is out as of this month. Chris Scalia, thanks so much.
Thank you, Kevin.
Stuck in traffic? We've got the answer.
It is a slow ride in Brooklyn this evening on the eastbound Bell Parkway from Ocean Parkway out towards Cross Bay Boulevard. Westbound, we're slow in front of JFK out towards the area of Cross Bay Boulevard. Van Wyck, a slow ride both ways from Linden Boulevard, pretty much right up towards the LIE. Grand Central slows on the eastbound side from the LIE out towards the Clearview. Then it does get better. LIE jammed up eastbound from Queens Boulevard out to the Cross Island Parkway with a crash being cleared. Southbound Cross Island Parkway just south of the Throgs Neck Bridge is where your delay starts and takes us pretty much right on down towards Bayside Marina, the Clearview, and down towards the LIE. Now, the Throgs Neck Bridge, not bad either way. Whitestone Bridge, not bad either way. The Bronx-Manhattan bound side of the RFK Triborough Bridge, that is a slow ride. 45 minutes outbound at the Holland Tunnel, about 10 to 15 on the city-bound side. 20 to 30 minutes each way at the Lincoln Tunnel. GW Bridge, not bad. Northbound West Side Highway generally slow from the 90s on up. FDR northbound slows from the 30s to the RFK Triborough, then not bad north to the GW Bridge. And now you know how not to go. I am Mike Barker on AM 970, The Answer.
Nakba, Arabic for disaster. Incredibly, David Myers, new Center for Jewish History president, calls the founding of the State of Israel Nakba, a total disaster. But David Myers wants his fellow Jews to be quiet. We won't. Myers supports targeted boycott of Israeli businesses. He's on the New Israel Fund Board, financing groups advocating boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israel. Myers, J Street Advisory Council member. They malign Israel, calling Jews oppressors and occupiers. Myers says Israel's old city of Jerusalem sovereignty is illegal. Tired of people like David Myers trashing Israel? Join us. Protest Myers' hiring as president of the Center for Jewish History, Wednesday, October 18th from 5 to 8 p.m. at 15 West 16th Street in Manhattan. Join Americans for a Safe Israel and jccwatch.org. Tell David Myers that he and those who support him are the true Nakba.
Hi, Kevin McCullough. The minute you sync your phone to a car's infotainment center, all your personal data is copied to that hard drive. That includes your contacts, emails, GPS locations, even text messages. All this data is then stored in the car's infotainment system's hard drive. Frightening, but true. Protect yourself with ClearMyCarData.com. From the leaders of e-data destruction, Guardian Data Destruction, a pioneer in the e-data destruction industry serving Fortune 500 companies throughout the United States. ClearMyCarData.com will remove all your personal data stored in your vehicle's infotainment system, making it untraceable by the next driver or owner. Wipe your car clean. Call 833-CAR-WIPE now. That's 833-CAR-WIPE, or visit ClearMyCarData.com. That's ClearMyCarData.com, and get rid of your data before you get rid of that car. 833-CAR-WIPE or ClearMyCarData.com.
What you need to know when you need it. It's Kevin McCullough Radio.
I just want to say thank you. I didn't have a chance to do this yet on today's broadcast, but I wanted to say thank you to the people of GEMS, Girls Educational and Mentoring Strategies or something. I forget. I was their guest last night at their gala on Chelsea Piers at the Lighthouse, and what an incredible evening. And what great work this group is doing because the story that they are telling, and Rachel Lloyd, who did the film Very Young Girls, the documentary Very Young Girls, she is the one that has organized and run this charity for quite some time. But you heard from the girls their actual stories last night, and the ability to survive really bad situations, human trafficking here in the United States, to get liberated from that, to get free from that, to get their lives on track. It was just a really powerful thing. And so big thanks to Rachel Lloyd and to all the people I got to meet last night, to MJ Kronfeld for getting to be a guest at her two tables that she had. And the people that, I met Amanda Cole, Kenneth Cole's daughter, and a number of other really cool people. Great evening, and just felt privileged to be part of it. Now, something that I'm sure someone feels doesn't feel any privilege to be part of is the whole Hillary Harvey Weinstein debacle. And Anthony Bourdain, the very irreverent, some would call profane chef that goes on these trips all over the place and so forth. Evidently, he is now dating one of the women that have come forward and accused Harvey Weinstein of molesting her. Her name is Ambra Badalana Gutierrez, and she was actually a cooperative witness with the police in staging a sting to get Weinstein to admit some of the stuff that he had done. Well, it turns out Anthony Bourdain has just tweeted criticisms back to Hillary for not coming out and speaking up when she should have. And so how does the Clinton machine respond to this? Do they say, you know what, you're right, we're sorry? Did Mrs. Clinton say, you're right, Anthony, because you're as liberal as I am. You're right, Anthony. I shouldn't have given him cover. I should return all the money. I should do everything I can to denounce him and to be very public about it. You know, it took her 5.5 days to even issue a statement. Well, here's the thing. The Clinton campaign didn't do any of that. The aides didn't do any of that. Instead, they went on this Twitter attack last night against Anthony Bourdain, telling him to go eat scorpions and stuff. See, Hillary, if you're defending the child molesting rapist in Hollywood against legitimate criticism, you're doing it wrong. I'm Kevin McCullough. We'll see you next time.
How hurt? That's 1-800.